Welcome to Solidworks Live, November 4th, 2021. In today's program, you'll see exactly what this picture is all about and what it took to put together this very special costume for one very special kiddo. My name is Brian Zayas. I'm very excited to be your host for today, bringing together a heartwarming story. It's an intersection of a 10-year-old's imagination, some volunteers putting in countless hours, powerful talents and tools on the 3D Experience platform, and really this show is bigger than any one person, any software. It's about the magic that can be created when people come together for a bigger purpose. So I'm so excited to share this story with you today. It's much more than just building a costume. You know, this costume is a vehicle for joy, for self-expression, for playing, for being a kid in the most epic way possible. We're gonna meet Freyja today, the recipient of this just amazing costume. We're gonna dig into the build with some of the volunteers and understand a little bit about what it takes to put something like this together. So Freyja just got this as a gift for her 10th birthday, and you're gonna love seeing how she reacted to this. It's gonna be a really good show. We have about an hour together. We're gonna talk about the cause, Magic Wheelchair. We have Christine GETMAN joining us to talk about what it's all about and how we can get involved. We're going to meet Aimee from Dassault and hear about what it takes to lead a build like this. Then we're going to get into some demos and talk about 3D printing and 3D sculpting. And then we're going to meet Freyja and her mom and just talk about what it meant to receive a costume like this and, you know, get to know Freyja a little bit. She's such an outgoing, energetic 10-year-old. It's going to be a real joy for you to all meet her today. I hope that this program motivates each of us to look inside and understand what are our talents, what are our skills, how are we using them for good? How are we coming together as a community? Big thanks to Kramer for hosting us in their excellent studio today. We're just outside of Boston. We're taking the necessary precautions to remain safe, you know, as we continue with the pandemic, but I'm just so excited to be here live in the studio with some special guests. Hey, before we get to the main story for today, a couple announcements from SolidWorks. SolidWorks World, 3D Experience World is coming up in February. Registration is open now. Make sure you sign up, make sure you come, and we can all get together and learn and celebrate the tools and the people together. We also have a wide range of abilities for people to get involved in the SolidWorks community. So if you can't meet us in World in February, make sure and check out all the ways you can get involved in user groups, SolidWorks Champions, and other programs. Also, really exciting, if you saw our last stream in September, you heard all about what's new in SolidWorks 2022. It'll be coming out November 23rd at SP0. And if you're subscribed to 3D Experience SolidWorks, you'll get it a few days early on November 20th. Tons of enhancements. Make sure you go back and check out our last live stream. Also today, you're going to hear a lot about people taking their creativity to the next level with awesome tools, 3D printing. If you're getting started with making or want to get involved with SolidWorks, we have a brand new, very exciting offer, 3D Experience SolidWorks for Makers. Check that out. Now, turning to our main story today, the makers you're about to meet are crafty, they're passionate, they're detail-oriented, and they make joy happen for very special kiddos in wheelchairs. Let's learn a little bit about what Magic Wheelchair is all about.
What makes a hero? Is it that he is fast? Or that she is strong? Does a hero really need a costume? Or just a big heart? Sometimes even heroes need a bit of help. And a little bit of magic. These are our heroes. They inspire us to do good. Magic Wheelchair, putting a smile on the face of every child.
All right, so we have a very special guest joining virtually from the West Coast. Christine, how are you? Can you hear me?
Hi there. Good morning. How are you?
Well, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. You're Executive Director of the Magic Wheelchair organization. I know something you do as a job on top of a job. Thank you for joining us so much. We were learning a little bit about Magic Wheelchair. It was an organization started in 2015, but it actually started in 2008 as a pirate ship costume for Keaton. So we just finished Halloween, obviously a very special time for costumes, but does Magic Wheelchair have an impact year-round? Do these costumes impact these kids throughout the year?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We say that the kids are the bosses, and we really mean it. So we build year-round for Comic-Cons or birthday parties, community events. You see like walkathons, running events, all sorts of things. So whatever they ask for. I mean, you see an airplane on there. That was for an air show. Gosh, looking at this collage is so fun to reminisce on things. There was one on there for a zombie convention. I mean, you just truly whatever they ask for, that dictates how we make it happen, where we do it, and it's been really fun to kind of let them run the show and see where the journey takes the mission.
So even though we call it a costume, it's much more than, Halloween. I really seems like a vehicle for just playing in such an epic way. Yeah, on the screen you mentioned the collage. I just pulled some images from the Magic Wheelchair Gallery. How many builds has Magic Wheelchair been involved in since 2015?
I think we're creeping a little bit over 275.
Oh my goodness.
And maybe a little more than that. Yeah, I need to double check. We're still kind of settling down after this Halloween season. Halloween is just on Sunday, so yeah, we're kind of coming up for air, letting everything settle down. It's been a really great season. I mean, we've been really impressed by the tenacity of families and builders to be safe and to make it work.
Well, yeah, that's something I wanted to touch on. I know last year a lot of makers, volunteers, they turned their attention and their talents to PPE and just helping address the pandemic. So how is Magic Wheelchair returning maybe to more normal pace, and how are builders and teams staying safe as they want to get back in and get into their fab labs and their garages?
Well, no matter what local rules are, we have a very strict masking, safety, social distance policy at Magic Wheelchair, all over the place. And so really it's just up to the families if they feel comfortable and ready. Some are ready now and they want to make memories now, and others would like to wait until they can go to an event to show off their costumes. So really we're just really going with the flow, being as fluid and flexible as possible. But we've done, I think about 33 costumes within COVID. This last Halloween, we did about 15, so.
That's so exciting. So we saw you, well, a lot of us watching saw you in September. You were part of our Slug Me 6 marathon, this build in the UK for George. With Kirby and Johnny, this awesome Lego dragon with articulating wings, and I think you mentioned that was the first international build over in outside of the States. Is that the future of Magic Wheelchair? Is it more global, more countries? What else is in the future for Magic Wheelchair?
Well, yes, certainly more countries if possible. There's a handful of international requests on the wait list. But certainly we have a U.S. waitlist that kind of keeps me up at night. I joke about, and so we'd love to continue, serving all of those on the list. I keep saying kiddos, but I really am trying to shift into building for everyone, because so many services for people with disabilities cut off when you turn 18, and I just don't think fun and inclusion should be one of those things that cuts off. So that's definitely in the future, is kind of bending the rules more soon to make it more official. And then also this winter, we are getting the keys for our very first Magic Wheelchair Makerspace here in Oregon.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay, that's huge. And I agree, you're gonna, we're gonna talk to Rob and Jordan and Annie today, and they're all kids at heart. You can tell that really came out in this build. So that seems like a good way to expand. We all want to play, even as we get older and get into the day-to-day of jobs. So what can the Solidworks community do today, to continue supporting Magic Wheelchair, get involved if they've never heard of it? What should we do?
Well, you can donate on our website, or on any social media platform. I think they have plugins on Facebook and Instagram and maybe even Twitter. Or if you're interested in getting involved and you can design something like a 3D element of a costume or even building the whole thing yourself with your community, you can go online and hit the volunteer button, and that will add you to our map. We have a big map that helps me pin makers to people in their community who they can meet up with and build for. Yeah, and I mean, just spreading the word. You know, you don't have to give money or give time. Just sharing what we do with your network can really reach a lot of new people.
Yeah, inside Deso, all of us are learning every time we do a build. This is the third build by the team, and just learning more about what it means to the kiddos. It's so exciting. What else? Actually, I want to step back. I want to ask you a question that's maybe not just Magic Wheelchair related, but are there just simple ways that all of us can be more aware of disability every day and just inclusive of all people?
Definitely. I get this grin on my face because I'm like, do we have time for a TED Talk? You know, it's okay to say the word disability. And I think that can go a really long way in shifting the stigma around disability, that it's not a bad thing. I think, you know, if I could give everyone watching one pointer, it would be to erase the phrase wheelchair bound from your vocabulary. I know that sounds really specific, but it can go a long way because none of us are bound to our wheelchairs. They're actually quite freeing. It's what lets us leave the house and engage in communities, and that's part of what Magic Wheelchair does, is celebrate the freedom and inclusion that wheelchairs can bring us. So that'll be the one point for now. But
That's amazing, and we're going to hear from Aimee, Freyja's mom, later, who's a writer and talks more about this, how to just broaden our perspective every day. And before that, though, we're going to get into a little bit of this build specifically for Freyja, of the floating castle pulled by cats. And what you're going to see, for those of us watching who do want to get involved, you're going to see a lot of what it takes to make, to design, to pay attention to detail, and to lead a project like this. So I encourage everyone to check out the website, donate, volunteer. But let's get into the project itself, and I have Annie in the studio today. Christine, you've worked with Annie. This is our third build with Deso. Can you introduce us to Annie, and what was it like working with her on this build for Freyja?
oh my gosh, we don't have time for her introduction, but Annie is the best project manager, build team leader, and friend of Magic Wheelchair. Everyone meet my friend, Annie CHEUNG.
Oh, all right. Hey, Annie. Thank you for joining us in the studio. Christine, I wish we had more time together. Hopefully meet you at 3D Experience World in February again. You've been there a couple times now, and I look forward to contributing myself, and I hope a lot of folks check out the website. So thanks again. Have a great morning, and check in with you again soon.
Thank you. See you there. Thanks.
Annie, thank you so much for being here in the studio. Tell us a little bit more about the partnership between Deso and Magic Wheelchair.
So it all began in 2018 when Chenlo sent an email to all of us in January, just introducing us to Magic Wheelchair. She found out about it at a maker fair, and wanted to know whether all of us just wanted to do a build, and it was just for, you know, we wanted to give her time, and all of us, I think she got a response from us within seconds.
Yeah.
Where we all just said yes, and by that June, we already had our first build for Jonah. It was a monster truck, and we did it in the most epic fashion, where we revealed it at Monster Jam with the driver right next to the truck. So it was an amazing experience, and you know, now we fast forward to now, and we've had 3 builds under our belt.
This is the third one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have 2. We did 2 Magic Wheelchair reveals at 3D Experience World, and we've helped support different build teams and community. Even right before the pandemic, we were helping out with one of the last reveals before a lot of things shut down. So, you know, we've been very active in the community, and it just keeps blossoming into so much more.
And today we only have a short amount of time. We're just gonna, we're gonna check in with just a couple members of the team, hear a couple highlights of the stories, but I think we should take a moment and just give a quick shout out, Annie, to all the people that got involved on this build from Deso. So who are some of these folks that came together and just sounds like they spent countless hours in the 3D experience lab or remote doing design work?
So this isn't the whole team, believe it or not. These are only the team members that are local, and we had a number of team members from Texas and Ohio and all over the place, where, and our team just keeps on growing and growing over the years as more and more people become aware of it. They're like, how can I get involved? How can I be on this build team? But this is an extraordinary group of people that came together, and each of us brought our own set of talents. And Rob mentioned it before, we all have our own personalities, and over the years, we actually started to understand how each of us operates. So, everyone brings like their A game to the table.
Yeah, it's crazy. Attention to detail, the way you guys brought in your personality. In fact, one great example, Annie, I asked you to send me a slide of the team members, and this is what you sent me. What the heck is up with these cat faces?
Right, so once we found out that Freyja loved cats, and Sal actually mentioned we have to go like full bore, and when we say go full bore, we go to the next level for everything. So there was a lot of cats, and so we were making a dress that Rachel beautifully made and handcrafted, and Heather came up with an idea of integrating the team in by collecting a cat that represented each team member, and then it was sewn into the lining.
You had a bespoke cloth made.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. And yeah, you see
the lining of it as like a little Easter egg and a reminder to Freyja, who were, the people that were behind the costume.
It's an amazing piece of the costume, which is, I learned, it's much more than just what goes on the wheelchair. It's the reveal, it's everything around it, it's the accessories that truly make this like the most epic playtime ever. Yeah, Rachel, really impressive work on this seamstressing, I don't know what you call it, tailoring. Amazing. I saw so many pictures. Again, spending countless hours, because you have a day job, right? Product definition manager, senior manager for Solidworks. I mean,
I talk about it that each of us had 3 lives. We have our work life, we had our personal lives, and then we had our magic wheelchair lives. And it kind of correlated with the fact that we actually ended up with 3 costumes actually happening at the same time. We had the dress, we had the castle, and the cats were almost like its own costume on its own. So it was a tremendous effort that we did.
So 3 lives, because you actually compressed the build into just a couple months, but you were telling me that you got to know Freyja, two years ago, before the pandemic. So tell me about that like initial pairing of Freyja through Magic Wheelchair. What was that like? And how did you get paired up? Like, so
we wanted to do a 3rd build, and at the end of 3D Experience World, all of the families they send an application to Magic Wheelchair, and then Magic Wheelchair pairs that kiddo with a local build team and what would make sense. And we wanted to do a 3rd build, and the only requirement we had was that the past 2 builds involved these really epic tires.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, the motorcycle build for Ben, those tires were even bigger than the monster truck tires. So we just said, can we get a kiddo that has the least chance of having tires with their costume?
Yeah, in a floating castle, where we're going, we don't need roads.
Exactly.
We don't need tires. And so this was what, 3D Experience World 2020? You guys sat down and you're looking at these applications and
so at the end of day 2, when we had a little bit of downtime, they gathered the team together, and Scotty had a printout of her application, and he sat us down and started talking through what she liked, and we were immediately lit up. They were saying castle, princesses, and then they said flying mermaids, and all of us were just like, oh my God, she's like the most amazing kid. Like who thinks of having flying mermaids? And we're thinking about all these flying mermaids. And then when I looked closely at the application, I noticed that there was actually a comma between flying and mermaids, which a comma makes a lot of a difference in what it means. But it actually turned out that we did integrate a flying mermaid into the costume, and the stained glass.
Yeah. We'll see a little bit of that. I think it's amazing because you took every element that you learned about Freyja, what she liked, and incorporated that into your plan. So tell us like a little bit more about what is Freyja like, and how did you start the ideation with the team to put all this together into, well, one design at the end of the day?
There's no one word to describe Freyja. I mean, we've described her as sassy. She's just got a magical personality, and when we finally got to meet her in person, you know, the thing that I noticed the most was that she notices. She can tell, you know, what's going on. She was asking, you know, while Sal and David were measuring the wheelchair, she was wondering who they were. She was counting us. So she was paying attention and noticing everything. And after the visit, and I had a chance to talk to, connect with one of our most favorite people, Meta. Meta described her as the best self-advocate, and I had the honor to see that in action, where she, you know, she's strong, and she, you know, speaks for herself, and you know, is confident, and will tell you what she wants, what she likes,
Yep.
and what she doesn't like.
Yeah, and she's here today. I think we're all a little nervous being like the studio, so we'll see. But yeah, very outgoing, so energetic, and you took all these things you were learning about her and talking to her, getting to know you, and we put it into, well, in this case, your project management tool, like an idea funnel, and just make sure the team all knows all these ideas and you can track them. Tell us, I guess, maybe a little bit more about the initial concept, putting together this idea of this floating castle.
Yeah, so once we had that first visit and we had a better idea of what we wanted to do, we knew we wanted to do a castle. And one of the important things that Freyja had said was that she wanted to be Princess Freyja. She didn't want to be any specific princess. She wanted to be Princess Freyja and what that world would be. So we took a lot of what she liked, and Sal came up with one of those ideas about having the castle being pulled by cats, because we really wanted to go full bore with on the cats.
Yep.
And during the visit, they talked about different castles and styles of castles that she liked, and the Arendelle castle came up during the visit, and there was a fun back and forth between Aimee and Johnny, her parents, on which Frozen castle she really liked.
Oh,
but
okay.
we drew inspiration from the Arendelle castle, and our concept artists, CHEUNG and Jordan, they came together and started to map out a number of different ideas as we were submitting our own ideas based off what we learned about Freyja. We were putting them and posting them in our private swim community that we created for this build. And then we were all pulling them together. And then Jordan here in this sketch, he pulled a lot of our different ideas that we were coming up with and tying them together. And then Chinlu did a second concept sketch, you know, and we were to come down to like what would be the final design.
It's so impressive just seeing how talented the team members were just capturing this idea, because this obviously leads then into we need to make 3D models so we can get printing, get fabricating, but all starts with just conveying, you know, distilling down all these ideas. Very, very, very cool. All right, so a lot of research, getting ready, capturing ideas, getting the sketches going. How big of a project is this? I imagine just concepting, sketching, that could be weeks, but how big is this project, and how short of a time frame did you squeeze it into once you started?
I mean, because our team has a lot of type A personalities, and we're very detail oriented. The scope of this project was tremendous, where we had so many different ideas, and we wanted to make them all happen in a very short period of time. I said it where we wanted to either make the costume in time for Freyja's 10th birthday, which was in September.
Which you guys did.
Yeah, well, a little bit. We were a little late, short of her birthday. So her birthday is September 24th, but we still needed a little bit more time. So the last date that we would have accepted was Halloween. So it was in that time frame that we knew that we had to make the costume. So we set out some milestones about when we needed to have the concept done, to start to do the CAD work for it, and then when was the date that we needed to start to manufacture in order to make that kind of timeline. So there's a lot of ideas and a lot of things that were happening in parallel to try to make that deadline, and we did it.
Well, we saw the idea funnel, and I bet people didn't notice, but there is actually a stage in the idea funnel of like rejected, and nothing made rejected. You guys, like everything made it in, and we're going to see that in some of the details here. Here's an example as you guys moved into the foam for the castle and fabricating that. Just a picture of the 3D mock-up and 3D play. Like how important was it after you got the sketching done to model everything, like have it in 3D to piece it together, visualize it, fabricate it? I assume pretty important.
Well, from our experience from the past 2 builds, we did a lot of fabricating by milling foam. And Sal, luckily, he has a milling machine in his garage, so we had a lot of remote and satellite labs, fab labs, to make this costume. So Sal would use the CAD to generate the code that was needed in order to do all of the machining. And there was quite a bit of 3D printing involved, so we needed the G code for that. So a lot of elements of the costume came to life because we did have the CAD model.
There's so much good 3D printing. I mean, it's something we're going to spend some time on talking about next. I guess zooming out, Christine gave you a big compliment, like best project leader. Now you're going to be on the hook, but what lessons, are there some big lessons you learned for folks out there who might think about getting involved, leading something like this, overarching lessons that you learned this time leading the 3rd build?
There was certainly a lot that's, I kept drawing on to the core reason why we were doing this, and that always came down to Freyja. So that was the constant reminder of making sure that all of the pieces were coming together. But we were able to utilize a lot of the pre-existing things that we had learned from the previous build. So I created a dashboard based off of our previous ones that had elements of things that we needed, and learned from those shortcomings that, whether we needed to add another place where people could find all the information that we needed, especially for a lot of the disparate teams that we were operating in. We were still dealing with a pandemic, and some of us would go into the office, some of us wouldn't be in the office. So there was a lot of logistics that were going on with a project like this, and also making sure that things kept moving, certain dependencies kept going, and we certainly learned, especially with this build and the amount of 3D printing, what we needed to plan more and to take into account. It certainly added a lot of stress.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that I was realizing looking through all your build photos is like 3D printing is not a magic bullet to file print and then a castle appears. And that's what I want to talk to next in a couple demo segments, is some of this finer details of moving from a 3D model into, the 3D print.
Right.
So why don't we bring on my friend, my colleague, Jordan TADI쪼, and he's going to talk about one of the 3D printing goals that you guys had, and that was to create these figurines. Again, attention to detail. It's not like we just want to put some toys onto the costume. No, we want figurines that represent Freyja and her family, and by the way, they're magnetically mounted, and they have RFID tags so they can turn on lights on and off. Like, this is the level that, that this team is thinking about the build, and then they actually executed on it. So Jordan, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We're seeing a picture of the figurines here, kind of in their final state, all illuminated, and you can see up close Freyja right there. That's the flying?
That's a flying mermaid.
Flying comma mermaid.
Cat. She also has a cat.
And she has a cat. So look at all these details. Okay, so Jordan, one of the things you wanted to do was incorporate these, and you found a site online where you could configure these and get a mesh model. Tell us about what that was like.
How custom they are. They're all holding like little objects that kind of represent their personality.
Okay.
And it's a really cool site, and you can download them, very inexpensive, but you download an STL file. And historically,
STL, yep.
We haven't been able to do anything with that. That's like a very lightweight file, all these triangulated faces, these facets, and pretty much we could open it up in Solidworks, but you couldn't really do anything with it until a couple years ago when we were able to actually start subtracting geometry away.
Yep.
And what you'd have to do is like Boolean subtraction, almost like really old school CAD, like build a block and then subtract it from it. But now in 2022, my job was so easy. That's why I feel kind of like an imposter here on this stage. My contributions were like so minimal compared to everyone else. And plus being remote, Annie, I was glad when you answered his question about like, what'd you learn? Like, don't collaborate with remote employees that can't come in and sand and paint and do all that stuff. But
So again, this is what it takes. You want to have this attention to detail. You found it, but then you needed to create a a mounting boss to hold a magnet, hold an RFID. So you need to create this geometry on top of this mesh model.
Yep.
Take us through in SolidWorks 3D Experience SolidWorks 2022 how you did that.
You're gonna miss it if I don't explain it. Basically, it prompts you, hey, this is an STL, and then you can convert that graphical body into kind of like a solid body. And now you could just start creating features as you would with any other modeling mode. It's a hybrid modeling mode that takes the mesh geometry and allows you to use traditional extrude features, extrude cuts. You know, always a good modeling tip, you know, use as many contours as you want per
So you're doing
sketch.
one sketch, kind of like a master sketch.
Yeah.
It's going to be multiple features.
Yeah,
Contour
sure.
select.
Pick the contours that you want to keep, and you could pop those all out with one single extrusion. And again, it merges directly to that mesh body. So all those like little facets that you see throughout that STL, you know, that all blends into a singular solid model that you could then 3D print. And now it's going to fit that RFID perfectly, the little magnets, so that it, you know, doesn't shake off and fall down and break while, you know, Freyja's moving around wherever she plans to go.
It's so cool. So just a couple minutes, able to merge that into one body. We save it to our platform, into our 3D space, and then send it to the lab for printing.
I told you, my job was easy.
But okay, so printing, like we're talking about, there's a lot of lessons here for all of us to take away. Like it's not as easy as file print, and this is just one small piece. Annie, tell me about how you arrived at what printer we should use, what material we should use to get those final, really fine, you know, figurines.
So we knew that these figurines are small. They're only maybe 2 inches or 2.5. And to match the scale of the costume. And if there's one thing that this team pays attention to, it's scale. We're always like, we want to be spot on to it. So for such a small figurine, we couldn't do it on some of the printers that would do the PLA because you would lose a lot of the fine details. So we needed to use the SLA printing, which can capture a lot of the smaller detail in the figurines.
And that's what we're seeing here?
Yes.
And that's SLA print. And then what's the material?
It's this resin material. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
But the figurines evolved very late in the project, so we had 5 figurines because I added on meta to the family.
Very worthy addition.
Yep.
And so in the short period of time, we needed to get 5 of these printed and painted, and all of that takes you know, a long process. So we were able to get some help from a local makerspace, a camera check space. Griffin Van Horn helped us in printing all of the figurines and helping us out as we're all scrambling to.
So the SLA is better at the finer details than like an FDM, you know, normal ABS plastic. You would have probably seen a lot of the resolution lost there. And then this SLA, this resin, it's suitable for priming and painting.
Yeah, and we were very lucky. We have so many talented team members that Albert does a lot of model painting as a hobby.
Very convenient.
So I sort of voluntold him to help us paint the figurines, and he did it in less than a week.
That's amazing.
This was very down to the wire.
Well, good for you. I mean, identifying team strengths, even the most maybe unknown talents. Like, how did you find out that he painted stuff like this already?
He'd always like show me his models and stuff like that. So
you're taking note of like, okay.
Because one of the things with the team, right, you build your friendships with your colleagues, and like I said, we start knowing each other's like little new, I don't know, quirks.
Sure.
So you build that friendship and you start to, learn about what each of us does and what their interests are. I always call Sal the wood whisperer because it's all about
The wood. Okay. And foam, apparently. Okay, so this is interesting because it's a lot more work than sometimes I appreciate taking an idea, a sketch, into reality. So here's another idea. I think, Annie, you posted this one. It was to have some dragonflies at the top of these castle spires. Okay, easy to say, but there's no dragonfly, online. So Jordan, take us through how you could model from scratch something, I don't know, looks pretty complicated. How did you approach this using 3D Experience?
Oh, it was pretty easy. It's my go-to app on the 3D Experience platform, my favorite X shape, where you basically start with like a digital hunk of clay and then just push and pull it. So like a lot like probably, Freyja would play with Play-Doh, or something like that. And you could just pick a bunch of edges, pick a bunch of vertices, and just start squashing them, stretching them, bending them. It's so easy. It's so much fun. And like, I think Freyja is gonna love watching this too because it's entertaining to watch and it's really fun to play around with. So, yeah, you're able to do all kinds of things.
What is this?
Yeah,
just bending the whole thing.
Just bending the whole thing. That's the tail of the dragonfly.
Dude.
And here's what is that called? The thorax or something like that? I forget. I learned that in elementary school. But yeah, so you could just duplicate geometry, stretch it out, and it's a lot like we did a lot of concept sketching, but in a lot of ways, this type of modeling is so quick, it can almost replace concept sketching because you're just, you're visualizing the entire 3D shape as you're moving these things around. Everything is instantaneous, right? So you don't have to wait for a feature tree to rebuild or anything like that. It's a fun environment to work within.
And it's just a couple minutes of, really cool model. And, I'm thinking about how I would approach this. I've been a Solidworks user for a long time. I'm okay with surfacing, and it's giving me sweats thinking about if you asked me to model this up, just regular surfacing, surface by surface.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, is like democratizing, complex CAD modeling. And this isn't nearly as complex as we could go. This is super simple. Wait until you talk to Rob pretty soon.
I know, because there's the next level. Again,
Yeah.
this is simple relatively, even though it's so impressive to see this. Jordan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank
and
you.
Participating in the build for Freyja. Really good
And like
work.
I said, I was the smallest piece. There were so many bigger contributors.
All right,
It was an amazing team.
next time, more sanding for you.
Thank you.
Me too. All right, so let's talk about cats. I like cats. Rob is here. He likes cats. Annie likes cats. Freyja loves cats. This is, I think, my favorite part of the. I love it all, but this I'm drawn to because they're lifelike, they're running, and what I love most about it, and we'll look at a video of Freyja seeing this whole costume for the first time, but she ran right for the cats, and it's like, oh my gosh, these are larger than life cats, and they're just gorgeous. So in some ways, simple, right? We just use what Jordan talked about, sculpt it up, print it. But there's so much more to it, especially because you wanted 3-foot, larger than life cats. So Rob is here. He's going to talk about, I think you spent a lot of your time on the cats and learned some lessons along the way that we can share with the audience and tell a pretty fun story about the design and the build.
Yep.
First question, does cats have names?
Well, yeah, we talked about that at the end, and I think Chinlu named one Gilbert, and then the other one we just never named. So
Okay.
It's no name cat.
All right. we
But
know
Freyja is working on the names.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because they have 2 real cats, Luna and 11. So we'll ask her if she's named these cats yet. Okay, so take us through the beginning. Started with the sketch, I assume, and sharing
course.
those ideas.
Yeah, we all start with sketches, bringing in pictures from the internet. We had some things to figure out, like, are these cats going to be real or are they going to be cartoon-like?
Okay.
Which avenue do we go? And plus, we also started playing with colors right away. We were inspired by some of the pictures of Freyja with her hair and her shoes. She has these black shoes with pink highlights on it. So that's why you see a lot of dark and fuchsia throughout a lot of the color studies that we did.
Okay, so you're thinking about the end goal. So you ended up kind of more realistic.
We went realistic all the way. That was the final decision. Yep.
In some ways, maybe that's harder because all of a sudden it's got to look real, and if you miss that mark, then you're not going cartoony.
Right.
So here you're seeing some of the models that you ended up with, and I went back into the community and I pulled some of your earlier images, Rob. So on the left, you have the chunky cat, one of your initial ones, which, okay, yes, I've had cats that look like that. On the right side, though, you see the final ones that are running, and immediately I'm struck by, well, how realistic they are, the details. There's like just the edges, the blends, and they're running. So I thought maybe you could show us maybe the next level of using the tool Jordan introduced us to, 3D Sculptor, and like how do you go and make those fine detail adjustments to really make it pop and look real life?
It's really about manipulating the mesh, right? So first thing I did, like I always do, is bring in a picture as a reference. That's very important. And then I started with the most difficult part first, which is the head, right? That has to be the most impressive. Tools like the crease tool really helped me. You can see here I'm really kind of pulling out the brow, like around the eye, by controlling the weighting of the surface as it passes through that region of the mesh.
Okay.
Yeah, just so many different tools in Xshape. The subdivision command really helped me, especially around the eyes, because you want a lot more control in there.
So subdivision, break it into more.
Yeah, break a face down into about 5-6 faces.
Okay, and then you can have more fine control where you need it.
Yep, exactly.
And I noticed you kind of left it more, we call it coarse, where you wanted maybe the broad side of the cat. You don't need to add too much detail. Don't over constrain.
Right, it's kind of like a spline in Solidworks, right? Like less is more sometimes. So the less amount of edges you have going through this thing, the easier it is to be to control. So in areas of high detail, you want to add more edges and vertices in those areas.
It looks amazing seeing this. So how many hours did you spend as you got to this stage, like just finessing it so it has that lifelike curvature to it?
I'd say probably, if I had them up, around 10 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not crazy. I mean,
it's not too bad considering these things have 4 legs. You know, there's 2 cats too. This is for both cats.
yeah.
And what really sped it up was I could copy and paste the sub-D surfaces in Xshape.
Okay.
So I could design a leg and then copy and paste it and just move it over and then reshape the leg rather than start from scratch over again. So that was a huge time saver.
So tell us about that, because you had designed the cat, and then maybe not all of a sudden, but the idea was they should be running, well, then they're pulling this floating castle. Okay, so you're able to go in, make one leg, you said copy and paste it, and you're telling me about something called a ordered geometric set. Is that like multi-bodies?
Yes. So exactly. So in Xshape, there's this unique functionality where you can put different surface bodies into these different containers, so to speak.
Okay.
And what's great about them is they're independent of order history. So I'm able to drop the legs into their own containers, but then go back and edit the torso and still see the legs, even though I created the legs after them in history. This way I can move the torso relative to the leg, and then I can go edit the leg and then move it relative to the body, and you kind of get into this back and forth workflow.
But it's not like what I'm used to in the feature tree, it's chronological.
Right, so the order history doesn't matter if you use these containers, so there is no rolling back.
I love it, look at that. All right, so you've finished the cats, or as close as you get with the time allotted, share it with the community, everyone's thumbs up. I think they're great, but now file print, that easy, right?
Yeah, so our 3D printers, they only fit a 7.5-inch cube of material per printer, right? And these cats are over 3 feet long.
Well, first, actually, I wanted to say I put this picture in here because I saw you guys initially went with like foam. We could just, CNC this out of foam?
Yeah, so
maybe do it faster than the 3D print?
That was the original plan. We were going to mill it out of foam. The big concern there was strength, right? You have these legs hanging off. You have the tail. Are they going to get broken in transit? Is a child going to, break it, knock it off? So then we started talking about doing a hybrid 3D print in foam, which seemed okay, but you still have a weak point where you're going to join up the foam and the 3D prints. So we just started going 3D print all the way, not just for the strength aspect, but it was also the most accurate. We didn't have to spend time sanding afterwards.
So is this an official sanctioned testing method, the air guitar cat strength test?
That's a very important part of the project right there. That we have a killer playlist that we have going.
Okay.
We've been building on it as we go. Yep.
All right. So you're testing different methods. There's a hybrid, the foam, but ultimately going with this idea of it needs to be strong, durable. Like this costume should last forever, really.
Yes.
It's not just a wear it for Halloween or your birthday and move on. Like you can play with this forever.
Yep.
So you went 3D printing and the build envelope. You're getting into that. Like you're limited. You can't print a 3-foot cat in one go.
Right, so I had to break each cat up into separate bodies that could fit inside the printer. So it's funny because I counted them all last night because I forgot the number, but it came to 53 different bodies between both cats.
53.
So it's 53 STL files we had to crank out, and then not necessarily 53 prints though, because we were able to nest some of the pieces, especially the legs. We can nest them into one print. I think it was upwards of 30 prints though, like 35 prints maybe.
In total, in theory, but in practice, with a lot of, we had power outages that we had to
Does that ruin a print if it power
Yeah.
cuts, you're restarting?
Yeah, so some of us brought some printers home.
That's
and
yeah.
I had it running on my kitchen counter, and a couple of team members have their own 3D printers at home, so we were running 3D printers in all of our houses 24/7, around the clock. Not only doing the jobs to make the cats, but also doing the jobs to make the pieces of the castle, because the castle also has elements of 3D printed parts and as well as foam.
And each of these pieces, hours, days?
One section of the hindquarter of just one cat was a 56-hour print. So you had multiple prints that took about 56 hours.
So you felt pretty confident, like you tweaked your design, I'm ready. I'm finally ready to print this because there's no changing it.
No, there was no changing. Once we started printing, that's it. That's how the cats looked. Yep.
I really like how look at these pictures. I feel like you were treating them as like real cats the whole time, like from the design to even just assembling them. So here's some of the different, there's the hind quarter, the cat one right rear. There's this picture I like because you didn't just take the body, split it like with a plane. You added some additional features like alignment pins.
Right, especially around the head. That was very important. Because we want the head to look good, right? People are going to go right to the head and look at that. So we wanted to align well, but also if you look at the eyes, we got those eyes on Etsy, kind of just enlarged doll eyes, so to speak, right? So I had to cut out or do a through cut on the back side of the face so we could insert the eye. And then when I glued the face onto the head had 2 posts coming out, so it could rest up against the inside of the eyeball so that the eye wouldn't get pushed inside. So those are the little mechanical things that we had to think about when doing this, yeah.
And there's Rob putting it together. And then here, I really like this picture, Rob with the tails, the final piece.
Yep.
Assembling, this is glue and sanding, like what is the final assembly of these pieces look like to get to this fine finish?
So when the pieces came out of the 3D printer, I would dry fit them, make sure they line up, do a little sanding on the contact areas, and then we use glue, CA glue, which is cryoacrylite, it's super glue.
Yeah.
Use that, but it's a little nerve-wracking because you have about a 20-second set time. So that's kind of where the art of it comes into. Once you put all the glue on it, hold it together, and then hold your breath and don't breathe for 20 seconds.
Oh, that last piece fits in, or else that's going to set everything back. So get it.
That's why the tails last.
The tails last. So at one point, these cats were twins. They were primed, taken home. They're 2 white kitties, and then we had some other folks contributing their talents to give these cats the fur.
Yep, that's Megan and Vincent. They are much more talented at painting than I am. So they took over and made these cats truly come to life.
So here they are getting into trouble, like knocking over boxes, but beautiful cats, now they need to be harnessed and pull the castle. And I thought this was interesting because, again, time is running out. You need to get this thing done. The cats are beautiful. It's perfect. But wait, how do we mount them? Because they're heavy.
So we had some trouble at the end. Once we 3D printed both cats, they looked beautiful, but they were heavier than we anticipated, 12 pounds each.
It's like a real cat.
Yeah, exactly. It's about a real house cat, right? So the original plan was to have like these pipes or wires coming out like a cantilever out of the castle, and it would act like they're reins, so to speak, right? So they could be floating. That idea went, right out the window once we realized there were, it was 24 pounds out there now. So we were inspired by another magic wheelchair build that had these 2 seahorses out front, where they actually had like a, we call it the sled. It's just a piece of wood that kind of comes out underneath the costume, and there's 2 pipes underneath it, and they come up and the cats rest on the pipes, right? And of course, there was concern that might look ugly. You have this thing under your costume under the cats, but we all kind of came to the realization, like you go to these these merry-go-rounds or carousels at these amusement parks with these beautiful horses
Right.
and elephants, and no one's looking at the big pipe, you know, going through the middle of the horse.
I like you're inspired, just like tried and true what works. So you took you had this great idea of the harnessing, but you were okay to leave that behind. You had to get it done, and you wanted to do it right, not necessarily commit to your idea. So again, good leadership. And then I love this picture. It's a little bit of surgery, and you use 3D printing to make an alignment collar.
Right, exactly. So that's a 3D printed collar you see there. It served two purposes. One, it gets permanently mounted to the pipe so that the cat can rest on top of it and not slide all the way down the pipe. It also keeps it from rotating. But another use was we also taped it to the underside of the cat to help us get the alignment for the drill hole that we need to drill in order so the pipe can go up inside the cat, right? Because we don't have a jig or a fixture for that. The cat's kind of organic. How are you going to measure that angle to get that pipe in? You know, we don't want the cat looking crooked on the pipe.
And again, you have one chance. Not like you can hold it and like, okay, get the angle right. It's got to be perfect.
It was some surgery, as you can see there, Sal up on the table with the drill.
This was a case where we didn't account for this in the CAD, and we had to be creative about how we were going to solve all these different problems. And I think a lot of us were a little nervous about drilling into the cats, but turned out great.
It worked out. Although next time maybe a third cat, a test cat, a prototype.
There was a third cat.
if we have the time.
Yeah. Okay, another story, but beautiful. I love this shot. They're very lifelike. Even whiskers, bell collars. I mean, great. Again, attention to detail all over. And like you said, Freyja, she pays attention to these details. I guarantee she noticed every one of these. Rob, thank you for showing this. I want to show you guys. This is a great video. It's about 2 minutes. And it's Freyja on her little 10th birthday party, and you guys took the costume over and revealed it to her. So let's take a look at that, and then we're going to check in with Freyja and see what she thought about this whole process behind the scenes.
So everyone, this is a special day for Freyja. We're celebrating her 10th birthday and her coronation. We have a special crown for you. We're all gonna be drunk. You have your dress. You have your crown, and what's the last thing that every princess needs?
A castle?
So are you ready to see your castle? 3, 2, 1!
THANKYOU! We thank you! We thank you! We love you! THANKYOU! We thank you! We thank you! We love you!
Sure.
Good.
Amazing video. Again, you can see the amazing attention to detail in the costume, and I'm so excited to welcome Freyja here in the studio. Hi. And Aimee, Mom, thank you for joining us today and taking time out of your day. What did you think? Did you get a chance to watch some of the show about how the wheelchair was designed and built?
Yeah.
Is that cool?
Watched a lot of the videos and the
Yeah,
pictures.
I showed you some of the pictures.
What did you think? I saw you ran right to the cats. I was telling you, I have 2 cats. You have 2 cats at home.
Yes.
So you really like the cats.
I love cats.
Did you give a name to the 2 cats on your costume?
Yeah.
Their names.
Their names are Annie and
Christine.
Annie and Christine?
Yeah.
Oh, those are great names. So they're girl cats.
Yeah.
Okay, do they get along?
You talk to them all the time. They're in your room.
I do. Yeah. And every time I wake up, I'm like, what are those?
So keep.
Get out of my room, please.
No, that's not what you
What
say.
are you?
And you have two real cats too, right? Luna and 11.
Yeah.
Do they get along?
No, I don't. Luna like, why?
Yep.
Yeah.
My two cats, they get along pretty well. Did I tell you one and the same sandwich?
What?
Sandwich was one of my cats.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is
You
this
told
silly?
me.
What else did you, I know you really liked your castle and the cats. Do you have any other favorite parts of the costume that you really liked?
Well, I like the castle because I like to feel like I'm a princess because Mom always told me that I am a princess and am I?
Mm-hmm.
I am? Okay. And, yeah.
I like that. Annie was saying that you wanted to be Princess Freyja. You didn't want to be a Disney princess. You wanted to be your own princess. But you do like Disney, right?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite Disney princess?
Well, I have a lot.
Okay. Name a couple that you really like. Who are your favorites?
Merida, 'cause she's funny
Yeah.
and brave, and her accent. Like, Merida, what, Mom? It's in my book. I love that about her, and she's
Who else?
brave. And Anna, because she loves her sister. And because I love Elsa too, because she loves her sister. But
Also Ariel, you were saying
and
this morning.
also Ariel, because she is on my purse, and I love her because she is a mermaid, and I also love mermaids.
A lot.
Yeah.
I was saying, yeah, I have a little girl, Stella, and she just saw The Little Mermaid for the first time, and she loved it. She didn't know what a mermaid was, and now she does. What do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be a supermodel and a teacher. So I'm figuring out how to be a supermodel and a teacher.
At the same time.
Yeah,
At-
at the same time.
What subject would you teach? Do you have a favorite subject that you're learning about now?
Well, yeah. I kind of, not really, but I kind of like math. Not really, but why are you saying yes?
Because I love math and engineering.
Yeah, a lot of us, working for Solidworks, we all love math and got into engineering. And, that lets you explore the whole world of, design and putting together cool shapes like the cats. There's so many cool things you're gonna learn about. So I hope you can rewatch this video and see how Rob and Jordan and Annie built and designed and all the details they put into this beautiful costume they made for you.
Yeah.
And Aimee, what you write about disability and inclusion. Everyone, you should check out Aimee's Twitter, The Right Aimee. I read a few of your articles. what would you tell all of us? I asked Christine, how can we all just be more aware of disability and just be more inclusive of all people anywhere we go? Like, what would you share with the audience watching about disability?
Thank you for asking. I think the thing that's most important is to listen to people with disabilities. I mean, my daughter is disabled and she is perfectly capable of talking for herself. And I think too often people look to parents and to teachers to speak for disabled people when they're perfectly capable of speaking for themselves, right, Freyja? And that was what was so special about this event for us, is that Magic Wheelchair is run by a disabled person, and that meant a lot to me because it meant that she understood what life is like for Freyja being a wheelchair user, and it meant that the team was going to talk to Freyja herself and not just to me. We're so used to people coming into our house and talking to us, talking to the parents, talking over Freyja, talking right past Freyja when she's here in the room, and nobody's done that. None of this team has done that at all, and so that's what I would tell anybody. That they are perfectly capable of talking to Freyja herself because she has a lot of the answers and she knows what she needs, she knows what she wants, and that's what I try to do in my writing is amplify her voice and the voice of the disability community.
It's amazing. Thank you for sharing the perspective. I definitely have a whole new perspective. It's so nice to meet you, Freyja. You can be anything you want. You can be a princess, you can play, and then you can be a teacher. That's the beautiful thing. You get to choose what you do in life. So I'm very glad to meet you. I'm very glad this team was able to give you a really special gift. I hope you get to play with it for many, many years, and have those cats in your room. That's 4 cats is a lot, though.
It's a lot.
2 cats, 2 more cats.
We've got birds too.
Oh my goodness.
And chicken.
And chickens.
Chickens? Okay.
They're outside.
We live in a farm, but we don't. We don't.
Feels like it.
Yeah, feel like it.
Well, thank you everyone for joining today's special program. Thank you for being here, joining us in the studio, and thanks everyone for watching. Again, make sure you check out magicwheelchair.org. Check out Aimee's writing at The Right Aimee, W-R-I-T-E, Aimee with 2 E's.
Yep.
On Twitter. Awesome links. And I want to ask everyone, come back in December the 16th. We'll be doing our highlights show, kind of a year-end review, and a really special holiday show. There might be ugly sweaters, maybe some eggnog. We'll ugly sweaters? All right, you'll have to come to the party. All right, everyone. Thanks. We'll see you next time.